Visual. Faceless person staring at a tiny unchecked task on a desk. You know that task. The one that would take 5 minutes. Maybe sending an email, replying to a message, filling out a form, cleaning one corner of your room. You think about doing it. Again, and somehow, days turn into weeks. The task stays small, but the weight of it grows larger. Why? Why do tiny tasks sometimes feel heavier than major responsibilities? And why does avoiding them often make us feel worse? Visual. Person walking past the same unopened door every day? Most people assume procrastination is laziness. But psychology tells a different story. Often, the task isn't the problem. The emotion attached to the task is. You open your laptop. You see the thing you've been avoiding. And immediately, you feel tension, pressure, discomfort, maybe even guilt. So your brain looks for relief. Not completion. Relief. You check your phone, watch a video, do something easier. And for a moment, the discomfort disappears. Behavioral psychologists call this negative reinforcement. Avoiding the task removes an unpleasant feeling. So your brain learns. Escape works. The problem is, the task remains. Waiting, growing, occupying space in your mind. Visual, slow-moving light patterns. If you've been avoiding small tasks for weeks, you are not broken. You are not lazy. And you are probably not lacking discipline. Your brain is doing something it was designed to do. Avoid discomfort. Human beings naturally move toward pleasure and away from pain. The challenge is that modern discomfort rarely looks like physical danger. Instead, it looks like uncertainty, embarrassment, fear of failure, fear of judgment, or fear of not doing something perfectly. The task may be small, but the emotion connected to it feels large. Visual, abstract brain animation. Imagine your brain as an overly protective security guard. Its job is to keep you safe, not successful. Safe. Whenever something creates emotional discomfort, the guard becomes alert. It doesn't ask, will this help me grow? It asks, can I avoid feeling bad? So when a task carries stress, your brain treats avoidance like protection. Neuroscience shows that the brain often prioritizes immediate emotional comfort over long-term rewards. Future benefits feel distant. Current discomfort feels real. That's why scrolling social media feels easier than sending one important email. One offers instant relief. The other requires temporary discomfort. Your brain chooses the faster reward. Again and again, until the habit becomes automatic. Visual, small object casting an increasingly large shadow. Here's the strange part. Avoidance doesn't reduce the problem. It magnifies it. A 5-minute task becomes a 5-day burden. A small responsibility becomes a source of constant background stress. Psychologists sometimes call this the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency for unfinished tasks to remain active in the mind. Your brain keeps reminding you, not because it wants to annoy you, because it wants closure. The longer the task remains unfinished, the more mental energy it consumes, like a notification that never disappears. Visual, roots slowly growing underground. So how do you break the cycle? First, make the task smaller, much smaller. Don't aim to finish it. Aim to start it. Open the document. Write one sentence. Read one page. Tiny beginnings reduce resistance, because the brain fears mountains, not footsteps. Second, separate action from emotion. You do not need motivation first. You do not need confidence first. Action often creates motivation, not the other way around. Many people wait until they feel ready. Psychology suggests readiness often appears after movement begins. Third, lower the perfection standard. Ask yourself, what would the messy version look like? Perfectionism often disguises itself as productivity. But underneath, it's usually fear. Fear of making mistakes. Fear of being judged. Fear of not meeting expectations. Progress grows when perfection loses control. Fourth, focus on completion energy, not outcome energy. Outcome energy asks, what if this goes wrong? Completion energy asks, what happens if I simply finish? One creates anxiety. The other creates momentum. Visual, faceless figure pushing a tiny stone that slowly begins rolling. Think of avoided tasks like a stationary wheel. The hardest part is not keeping it moving. The hardest part is the first push. Once motion begins, friction decreases. Momentum takes over. Your brain often predicts that starting will feel terrible, but reality is usually much lighter than the prediction. The discomfort exists mostly at the beginning. not throughout the entire process. That's why people often say, I should have done this earlier. The task wasn't as difficult as their imagination suggested. Visual, sunrise entering a quiet room. Maybe the reason you avoid small tasks for weeks isn't because the tasks are important. It's because the emotions around them became important. The task stayed the same. The story around it grew. And every day you delayed, the story became heavier. But stories can change. Starting does not require confidence. It does not require motivation. And it does not require becoming a different person. Sometimes, it only requires opening the door you've been walking past. One click, one sentence, one small action. Because the task you've been avoiding for weeks may not need a perfect plan. It may simply need your next tiny step. And once you take it, you might discover that the thing you feared most was never the task itself. It was carrying it alone in your mind for far longer than necessary.